athletes. We are excited that you are willing to really be part of the pioneering force and hopefully this sport that will take off. And when it's as wildly popular as any sport in the state, you can say that you were there and building that foundation and seeing it to become the great sport that it is. So we're very happy for all of you. We're excited that you were willing to participate and represent Brighton in the tremendous way that our athletes always do. So congratulations again, and best of luck next year.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Okay, next up, I'm excited to bring forward Danielle Parcell from she's the leader of our Washington, D.C. trip. And I know that many of us, our kids have gone through and been part of these amazing trips. Just wanted to have a chance for her to talk a little bit about the program, share some of the highlights of it, and just have some recognition for the hard work and dedication of the team to bring these opportunities to our young people. So I'd like to bring Danielle forward, talk a little bit about DC.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight, first off. So the DC trip, just kind of a little bit of background about it. It started back in 2011 with Mr. Denny Green. He was with running the trip for a few years before I officially took it over in 2015. And I have been working with Student Adventures since 2015. We had been with another tour company prior to that. And then once I took things over, we shifted. So every year since 2015, we've taken anywhere between 6 and 8 buses on our trip. We had, I think our year after COVID was my only 6 bus trip that I had ever done. And every other one's been 7 or 8 buses, which is pretty close to 300 plus students that we're taking every single year. And I mean, there were some years at the beginning where our class sizes were a little bit bigger, and we were taking upwards of like 330, 340 students at that time. And this last year we took 302 of our 8th graders. So it's a trip that I think I kind of crunched the numbers being a math teacher. And I think it was well over like 3,200 students that have had the opportunity to travel with their classmates and go to Washington, D.C. Every single year, I put it together, and my chaperones are basically teachers, administrators, educational staff, and I've even taken some administrators. Dr. Outlaw got to go this year. Mr. Trombley had traveled with us several years ago. So I basically offer it to any Brighton area school, employee, somehow connection there. And then I do take 2 medical assistants. At times it has been people that are outside of Brighton area schools. But I've had a couple, from ER doctors, pediatric, assistants, EMTs, firefighters, things of that sort, just that are there for any emergencies that may happen throughout the trip. So some other important information about this trip. Each year we do scholarship and help students that can't financially fund this trip. We do have money available based upon how many buses we take. We get, X amount of dollars for that. So, but I do stay local, and I run some different fundraising with some local businesses. Bush's has a cash for education that kids can basically just start fundraising each quarter that money comes in if families shop there. I do a Grand Traverse Pie Company fundraiser. And then I also have used Rise and Grind Coffee in the past too, which is another local piece. So students are able to fundraise. It's not, always an out of pocket. And then we do have that scholarship piece. The trip these last couple of years has been about $1,000, but that's now 4 days and 3 nights because of bus situations. We've had to turn and travel during the day, which as a chaperone and someone running it is much better. It is 1 more night in the hotel room, unfortunately, but we're there in DC for 4 days and 3 nights. And the great piece is the chaperones have some type of security piece of when they go to bed, because we have security guards on the floors that if there were emergencies or students trying to get out, which hasn't ever been the case, but more just for emergencies or kind of keeping an eye and ear on the kids while they are sleeping and such. So we do have security that ends up being part of that trip too. So Each year the trip is a little bit different. It just kind of depends on when we can get times at different places and things of that sort. But these are basically some of the highlights that we've had over the last 10 years that I've ran it, anywhere from Gettysburg to Mount Vernon, getting in on the Capitol tours. Some groups have an opportunity to walk through the Library of Congress. We've had years where we've been able to walk through the Supreme Court. And one of the, I think, most impactful pieces for many students is not only being able to go to Arlington, but we also have had several opportunities where 4 of our students have been able to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So, and I'll share something in a little bit about that. So here's just kind of some pictures, different years, the wreath that we, have designed to put up at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I might be a little biased, but they usually are the prettiest ones that are left at the tomb each day. So they do a great job with that. Other opportunities, each year we do the memorials. We have docents that take us around all of those different memorials. Many of them are all done in one night where they're traveling, from basically, Lincoln all the way through to, I guess it would be the World War II if you've been there before. But lots of different memorials we get to see. We've had the opportunity to go up on top of, actually it's not in here, but the rooftop at Kennedy Center. All the Smithsonian's, and the tour company basically helps us get into these with time tickets and whatever we have to have. And she puts together a pretty nice itinerary for our students. So some of the things they get to do, some of the memorials we went to, some of the museums they got to see this year, a couple of years ago, I think too. So pretty great experience for them. The other piece we've put in over the last few years is a place called Smoky Glen. It's an opportunity for these 8th graders to basically be 8th graders, run around, play putt-putt and volleyball and basketball and dance and, just really truly be kids. We kind of put into effect this year. Your ticket out the door is your phone on your bus seat. So they had no devices out there, which was things they couldn't lose then for us to be looking at, later at night. But it was nice for them to just interact with each other. So the archives we've done, many groups get to do those each year. Ford's Theater and Museum, and you're going to see why we've placed that one in for this next year. We've done Holocaust in the past, the Botanical Gardens. The new one, U.S. Army Museum, just opened, I think, 2 years ago, shortly after COVID. So that's a new one. And there's been some years they ventured to the National Zoo, and you're, pleasantly surprised by what the zoo has to offer there. So here's some pictures. You can see the putt-putt there, and then that's the barn that they get to dance in and stuff like that. The rooftop view and the volleyball. So it's a pretty cool atmosphere for the kids. And then we have Ford's Theater up there on the left. And then the Army Museum is the one with the 1975 in it. So I am going to share this slideshow with you all just because there's a lot to kind of dig into and you probably can't read it all. And then I have some testimonies at the end. So I will share. So if you feel like you're missing something, I will do that. But I have a great group of ELA teachers and history teachers this year that have really dived in really bringing in the cross-curricular activities in the classroom and then also when we're in DC. So each year we kind of break down and we debrief about that and how can the classroom teachers do a better job interconnecting different things. So the English teachers, several of them that had read Chasing Lincoln's Killer this year. So some of the students that were able to go to the Ford's Theater were able to make some of those connections and, pieces like that, which was really great. And then the Gettysburg piece too, with the U.S. history, being able to make those connections with different monuments that they see and different markings and things of that. And then the other one that they're going to be offering, a lot of the English teachers offer, is Soldier's Heart by Gary Paulson, which is just another way to kind of enrich the Gettysburg experience with something they've read in the classroom. So probably asking, well, you said there's only 300 that travel. That means there's 100, 150 that end up staying back. And so we've done a really great job to incorporate days for them to be back at Scranton with some interactive pieces online, different virtual tours that they're able to do. It's amazing what access we have without being there that these kids could experience different videos and just different lessons to enrich what they had already learned in, in their U.S. history class, not being able to be on the DC trip, but being able to, do some different activities and things like that with those other teachers that don't go on the trip with us. So, and this is where I said, I'll share this with you. This was Sheila Bean, one of our students that traveled this year, and more or less just kind of talked about, the comfort of having friends and like overcoming some anxiety pieces she had. And then being able to experience Arlington was like one of the highlights of her trip. So she says, overall, my 8th grade DC trip was better than I ever could have imagined. And I have my teachers, principals, and Brighton area schools to thank for that. So that really, from a student's perspective, I think is really powerful. I have another student, Nick Farney, just his connection with what he had done in the classroom, and then different things that he got to see at Ford's Theater this year, and, different museums and how he was connecting that with his U.S. history class. And then retired Sergeant Major Mejia, she actually had 2 girls, separate years, that both were able to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And she just kind of shares her testimony about like how powerful it was for her girls and also for herself, to be able to overcome some different things, different demons, as she said. And then also just peace that she's kind of come with after serving her time and losing some other military members of her, her family over the years. So I have that in there too. And this was this year's trip. So any questions for me? But like I said, I'll be happy to share the slideshow with you so you can read those testimonies and those experiences a little bit closer.
Thank you for coming. I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Having had children that did this trip, some of whom went when you left at night.
Yep.
And my daughter, who went last year and left during the day, I do think I know it's a little bit longer, and you mentioned how it's much better for the chaperones. I do think it's better for the students as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because I got the sense from the feedback from my older children that when the bus rolled out at night, there wasn't a whole lot of sleeping that took place during that bus ride.
I try to warn them, but they don't want to
when they get there, they're already just exhausted because nobody has slept, during the bus ride. And at least this way, I think, schedule-wise with their energy level, they're able to ride the bus during the day, participate in the activities, and then get some rest at night. And I think
it's still an exhausting trip for sure, but definitely running both of them.
So I know
which one I prefer.
I think that's a really positive change for the experience for the students as well.
I agree.
Just one quick comment.
Yeah.
We obviously participate, have folks come in and do presentations like this on a regular basis. And it was really nice to see all of the student photos, group photos, and the
wish
feedback.
I could put them all up, but I had about 1,000.
You really did a nice job of putting a detailed presentation together with just a very nice broad breadth of what the trip really entailed.
Awesome. Thank you.
And just want to thank you for that. It was really neat to see
My
all
pleasure.
that feedback and look at all those pictures.
Awesome. Thank you.
So just a couple more comments on it. I'm gonna just say Danielle is. I was so unbelievably impressed by the attention to detail with everything as a parent, and was also working here. I was really proud of the amount of effort that goes into it, and she did it and made everything look easy. It's like, think about it, 300 and some students, and just it was like the maestro, making it all look so simple. There's so much work that goes into this, and anybody who's parents has seen all the communication and emails. You're just so proactive, so attention to the educational side of things, so focused on things like safety and welfare, but doing it all in a way that created this environment for the students that was really fun and enjoyable. We're really lucky to have you leading this program. I just want to say thank you for everything you're doing.
My pleasure.
So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to be able to introduce Katie Boggs. She is the person that's been nominated for the LESA PAC position that you vote on later in the meeting. If it's okay, I'd like to bring her forward now
Sure.
to have a chance. She's going to just introduce herself. Thank you so much, Mrs. Boggs.
Hi. Like you said, my name is Katie Boggs. I was on the PAC already for several years pre-COVID, and now I'm back again to represent my son and other parents just like me in Brighton schools. The Parent Advisory Committee is made up of parents with a child with a disability, representing all 5 local school districts in Livingston County and the LESA programs, and we meet once a month. My son will be going into 7th grade. He's kind, caring, loving, funny, silly, playful, friendly, happy, compassionate, and brave. He also has cerebral palsy and autism. But if I started with those labels, you might have missed out on that entire list of other awesome attributes he has. My family and I strive daily to help others see and focus on those qualities first before any other label, and we demand the same rights for him as any other child in our district. A little bit about myself. I was a music teacher for over 15 years, teaching in a charter school, a Christian school, teaching private lessons, owning my own business, sharing music with infants and toddlers and their parents, and I grew up in Howell schools. Sorry about that. But my husband graduated from Brighton schools, so he might be your favorite, but that's okay. He entered the U.S. Navy after graduation, and I'm proud to say that in October of this year, he will finally, but proudly and honorably retire after 25 years of military service as a Navy chief. He is also a sergeant in the Michigan State Police, currently out of Lansing. Our oldest son, Christopher, graduated from Brighton in 2021. He will be completing his last semester at Central Michigan University. He will be student teaching in the spring and graduate in May with high honors in music education to pursue his dream of being a high school band director. And we realize he just missed the opportunity at Brighton schools to bring him back home closer to us, but that's okay. All 3 of us work tirelessly in teaching disability education, accessibility, and inclusion. To all of you on the board, I just want to say, please remember, as you always do, our kids too, when making decisions for our schools and planning events and buildings and budgets. And if you're ever unsure, please ask me. I would love to work with any of you in any way possible. To any other educators or parents or students who might be listening or who are here, please take time to get to know all students, even if they seem different than you. Teach your children to get to know my Connor and others, for I guarantee you anybody who does is so much better for it. Give them every opportunity to learn from each other. Encourage them to take on leadership and peer-to-peer roles, not only in school, but also when you see us at an event or at the playground. Help us to build not only acceptance, but true relationships that will positively shape both their lives. Our future communities really depend on that. So I look forward to working closely again with Michelle Allison, our special ed director. She really is a great advocate for our students and a support to us parents. So thank you to Michelle, and thank you to all of you, and go Dogs. If you have any questions or.
Thank you, Mrs. Boggs, for
Yeah.
being here this evening. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing the insight to your beautiful family, and and we look forward to you. And thank you for. I know it's a volunteer position to serve on the advisory committee, and we appreciate your willingness to spend the time and obviously be an advocate for these very important issues. And we really appreciate your dedication to that, and being here tonight. And congratulations to your husband on his career and his retirement. And let him know that if he's looking for something to do, we may have an opening for a Navy ROTC instructor next year, which might coincide nicely with his retirement.
Great.
So anyway, but thank you again for being here.
Thank you
really
very much.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay. All right, that concludes the superintendent report portion of our agenda. It moves us to the call to the public. This is the opportunity for anyone here this evening to address the board, the opportunity to do so. Our protocol is to fill out a card in the rear of the room and deposit it in the box to the left of Ms. Mosier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Dr. Krebs will be keeping track of the time. When there's 30 seconds left, she will give a yellow card, And when the 3 minutes is up, she will raise the red card. So I have one card, unless there's any more that have been placed in the box. So Sarah Cross.
I think we're getting to the point where at my age, I need to accept that I can't be trying to read my thing off my phone anymore. And I should probably print it out in like large font, but I'm going to try my best here. As many of you know, I'm a proud graduate of Brighton area schools, Brighton High School, and my kiddo is entering her last year in the district this year. I'm very proud. We might have to drag her across the finish line, but we're going to get her there. I've lived overseas and throughout the United States, but I moved back to Brighton when I became a parent because I wanted my child to have the same exceptional educational experience that I did, and she absolutely has, hands down. Many schools can give a kid a great education, but what makes the Brighton experience exceptional is, I feel, our rich community of parents, and especially our parent volunteers. When I reflect on my time as a student here, one of the most rewarding aspects was witnessing the unwavering support from so many parents and teachers. The enthusiasm and effort that they poured into our extracurricular activities did not go unnoticed by me. Whether it was my Girl Scout leader who helped a shy and scared fourth grader make friends, or Mr. Piner, who offered to mentor the very kooky and brand new environmental club when I was in high school. My whole life has been touched by people that have given their time to me. Sometimes I didn't appreciate them in the moment. I didn't love it when my mom volunteered for the senior all-night party. I was embarrassed and I didn't want her around, but when I became an adult, I was like, I will be every bit as annoying as my mom, and I will be there at things my kid doesn't want me to be there at. And that is my goal in life. I've made volunteering in our schools a priority because I think it makes a difference not just to my daughter, but to other kids. And it has made a huge difference to me as a parent. I feel more informed and invested in our schools and our community because I see the kids all the time and I see the positive impact that what we do here makes on them. Whether it's helping kiddos to learn to count as a second grade banker, which did make my eye twitch sometimes, trying to get them to know the difference between a dime and a nickel and a quarter, or organizing the ever popular family fun night, where I learned not to let Ken talk you into having mini marshmallow shooters on the brand new carpeting and the devastating impacts of thousands of marshmallows, or being a Girl Scout leader, or most recently, this whole time PTO and the senior all night party, or photo mom for lacrosse or cheerleading. Every single hour I have given to our kids has brought me so much joy. And I know that there are hundreds of other parents who feel the same way as I do. Our parent volunteers are an integral and exceptional part of our school environment and our athletic programs. We couldn't make any of this work if it weren't for all the parents that show up for our kids. Their involvement creates a nurturing and dynamic space where students can excel both academically and personally. And we all know that parents are pulled in a million directions every day. Their time is one of the most precious resources that they have. Choosing to spend it here speaks volumes about their dedication. And I hope that we can continue forward in a way that honors our parent volunteers and makes them understand that they're welcomed and accepted here. Sorry about running over. Thank you.
All right, that closes the call to the public portion of our agenda and moves us to the for action portion. Item A, regular meeting minutes of June 10, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? I do just have one correction, Ms. Ackermite. At the very end, it says President Myers adjourned the meeting. It should say Vice President Reed adjourned the meeting. Yep. All right, with that correction, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. That moves us to the Human Resources Report. Dr. Alwa.
Mr. Anastasov was not able to be here this evening. He is home sick right now throughout his back also. So he had a double whammy here. So I'm going to fill in. We've been busy. The HR department has been closing out some of our last bit of hiring for this year. They've done an amazing job, and I want to say thank you to all of the staff, the administrators, the parent volunteers that have been part of the hiring process. We really have done well. We've got a lot of talent. And we're going to recommend 4 more to you here this evening. So we're going to have four folks here that are that we're looking to fill. One is Kelly Jakaitis, Spencer Elementary School, 4th grade teacher. She is from Brighton. She was at Cornerstone Christian School, and then for the last, it looks like 8 years, was in Illinois as an elementary 5th grade teacher, and then later as an instructional coach. And she will be returning, and she is the recommendation for Spencer Elementary School. Next up, we have Michaela Kalick. She is coming to us. She is a teacher at, was a teacher this past year at Bailey Lake Elementary School in Clarkston. And she is coming to Brighton to be at Maltby Intermediate School, filling a special education vacancy there. Next up, as part of the counselor additions, we had a little bit of a shuffle, but we were able to hire a new counselor at Scranton Middle School, an experienced counselor, Stacy Masjak, and she is coming from Discovery Middle School in Canton, where she had 14 years experience as a counselor, came highly recommended. I believe she is a Brighton resident as well. And so that is our recommendation for counselor. And then finally, this was just done a few hours ago here. We have another very experienced person that we are recommending to you this evening. And this is Mrs. Jessica Starek. And she is currently a middle school resource teacher in the Plymouth Canton School District. And she is looking to join the Brighton area schools. She also is a Brighton resident, but very experienced from being a teacher at different levels, and would be joining our team at Brighton High School. So these are our 4 recommendations this evening as part of the HR report.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the human resources report as presented? Moved by Dr. Krebs, support by Mr. Conley. Any discussion?
Dr. Outlaw, do you know how many more positions we think we have to fill this summer?
We only have a couple left. We have an ASL teacher that we are in discussions with, but it's not closed out at this moment. We're also monitoring enrollment at kindergarten right now, kindergarten, junior kindergarten. Every year we always have to monitor. We're looking good with the staff that we have right now, but we are getting close in a few areas. So there's a possibility that we could have another junior kindergarten or kindergarten position. But those are 2 that right there. And there also is 1 additional special education position, I believe, at Scranton that I believe has just been posted. So I think those are the 3 that remain.
Thank you.
2.5 that remain. So.
Okay. Anything further? I just want to say with regard to Ms. Peterson Rust and Mr. Borg, I want to thank them for their service to our district and to our students. I wish them all the best in all their future endeavors. And I want to welcome those that are going to be the new hires. Their credentials are extremely impressive, and very much looking forward to having them join the district. All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. Moves us to item C, MHSAA resolution. Dr. Allah?
So talked about this at the last meeting. Every year there is an MHSA resolution. It's basically an agreement to be part of the MHSA and requires board approval. We talked about this at the last meeting. Happy to answer any questions once that time comes. But you already gave it to them at place, right? And the official form is here. And if it's approved, we will have Dr. Krebs sign that form on behalf of the board this evening.
All right. We have a motion to approve the MHSA resolution as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. That moves us to the appointment of representative to the LASA PAC. We heard from Mrs. Boggs. And do we have there's actually in the packet, there's 2 different alternatives. One is to have the board approve Mrs. Boggs as the PAC Advisory Committee representative, which is what we have historically done. Dr. Outlaw did some research since the last meeting, and we can adopt a resolution just delegating the authority for Dr. Outlaw to approve that volunteer, and it doesn't have to, in the future, come back to the board for a formal vote. So we can have a motion to approve Mrs. Boggs and to adopt the resolution, or just to approve Mrs. Boggs, or just to adopt the resolution. So what would anyone prefer? Mr. Conway?
And then if the other board members want to make it with the superintendent, it's up to them.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Conley to approve Mrs. Boggs and to adopt the resolution authorizing Dr. Raul, or the superintendent in the future.
Approve her. I just didn't.
He's not doing the second.
Oh, you're not doing the second part. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay for the board. That was great to meet her. I think she'll be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think that was fine, and I'm very comfortable with that, and her support and her background and knowledge was obviously just came right out instantly. So, but I'm okay with the process we have now. But if anybody else wants to add to it, I'm good with just putting her up in full support.
So we have a motion to approve Mrs. Boggs as the PAC Advisory Committee representative. Do we have a second? Support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. And is there any interest by anyone
I
else?
would like to make the motion to delegate the appointment for future LESA PAC representatives to the superintendent.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Reed, support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I appreciate that she came tonight, but I do think that it's fine to delegate that responsibility, that it's really ultimately up to the district to decide. It's a volunteer role. I don't know that it needs to come before the board, so I'm going to be in support of.
I agree, especially considering some of the questions that we raised here at the board table the last couple of meetings when this subject came up. I think it's appropriate to delegate this to the administration.
Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. All right, that concludes the for action portion of our agenda. Moves us to the for future action. Item A, gymnastics cooperative agreement between Brighton area schools and Howell Public Schools. Dr. Outlaw.
Okay, this is for future action. As a former athletic director, at times there are sports where a school does not have enough of their own players. For example, we have the Coalition for Girls Hockey, where we work together with other schools because none of us have enough students or enough players to be able to form our own team. So gymnastics, we have 8 or 9 girls from Howell, and we have 3 girls from Brighton. So Howell could have their own team, but Brighton could not have its own team if we have to go alone. So the ask is that the Howell and Brighton team become one, a cooperative team for next year. If I think that if both teams had enough, then we could break up and we could have our own teams. But for next year, the request is for this to become a cooperative team. This went through, there's a governing board of the athletic directors of the council. There was a 16-0 vote from the athletic directors for this. Really from Brighton, there's really no downside. We have 3 girls that would like to be involved and otherwise would not be able to participate as part of a team. They could participate as individuals, but not as part of a team. So that's the ask coming from the athletic department.
Just out of curiosity, similar to what Ms. Reed just motioned on, what would bring something like this to the board? In other words, would the athletic director of our school district be empowered to support something of this nature, or is it related to funding? What is it that brings this to our board? And I ask because I grew up in an area where this was very common, and school districts did this very, very regularly with different athletic programs. So I'm just wondering, what brings it to the board? Is it more for awareness, or is it something that we, per policy, need to be voting on?
So it requires the board would have to agree to go into a cooperative agreement. Nobody else has the authority other than the board. Brighton Board of Education and the Howell Board of Education would both have to approve this for it to be official.
This would be an annual so we would do it for this year. And then if for some reason we have a much larger group of young women next year that want to be in gymnastics, they would potentially separate. So it's an annual approval process.
Correct. And Dr. Mosier knows about this. Her daughter's on the Howell team. Before this year, there were enough girls. They trained together. Am I correct on that? They trained together, but then they competed as Howell and as Brighton. Brighton doesn't have enough next year, so looking to combine. Because it was the same coaching staff.
Have a team.
Do you know the exact number? I think, what is it, 5?
Compete, the girls compete 7, you usually compete 7 at a meet, and then you can have an A and B team, and essentially that's what will happen, is you'll have an A and B team, so all girls will be able to compete.
The varsity, is everybody competing at varsity level? Or?
They all can earn varsity, because if you compete, you get scores, and that works towards your varsity letter. Yeah.
Work with a common schedule towards Howell, we all start at the same time, and does that mean anything that would influence that idea? And then they have their block scheduling going on, and
I don't think the gymnastics program is going to
well,
lead
maybe
to
that will
that
influence.
to
Could be a
happen.
beginning.
So,
We can all start after Labor Day, or we can start the week before, right?
well, this will be the final year of our contract, so we'll be talking about for the 25-26 school year. Brighton can talk about
If we can't
You
get
know,
closer to some
ideas
start
that-
dates and get
that
people on
you'd
the
like to
same-
discuss.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thank you. Just throwing that in, because I'd like to, maybe we can start negotiating it now. Thank you.
Okay. All right, that concludes the for future action portion of our agenda. Moves us into the board committee chair reports, community recognition. Has there been any committee meetings since the last meeting? No, we're scheduled to have a bond facilities committee meeting Wednesday, right? One thing I would like to just recognize John Thompson. A couple weeks ago, Mr. Thompson was recognized as the National Athletic Director of the Year, which is an amazing accomplishment, and kudos to him and congratulations. A very well-deserved award and recognition on a national level, which is very impressive. And that came on the heels of him being named the State Athletic Director of the Year by the Michigan Interscholastic Athletic Association, something like that.
Coaches Association, yep.
Yeah. In any event, but the sanctioning body at the state and national level recognized Mr. Thompson's talents and efforts, and it's exhibited, as we can see throughout the year, by all of the successes of all of the programs and the amazing job that our student athletes do, and the emphasis on not only being a great athlete, but also putting in the hard work in the classroom as well. And that's a testament to his leadership, and it's a well-deserved honor. So I just wanted to compliment and recognize him on that tremendous award.
Bring him before the board on that issue, I would suggest, maybe this is a little Shining Star
And
Plus, right?
I'd like to bring him, he wasn't available here this evening, but I'd
Yeah,
love to
no,
bring him up
absolutely.
here to,
I think it's absolutely.
Yeah.
Appropriate. It's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
and
It's a
he's
phenomenal-
always been, and the thing that is always, I've always been very impressed with Mr. Thompson is he's always pushing new programs. I mean, he was one of the leaders with the Project Unify years ago,
Right.
which ultimately elevated that program to one of ESPN's top 5 nationally. And, the initiative with the flag football program, and really just continuing to push the envelope to create more opportunities for all of our students. And that really is, that's a real testament to his leadership, and is just an amazing benefit for all of our students. So.
We have other things to celebrate. I mean, Burrell is, our health occupations teacher was #1 in the state.
Yes.
And on to a national position potentially. She's competing currently for that, is that correct?
she is. Yep,
Yeah.
she won a regional award and now she's at the national level.
At the national level and things like that, but I think we need to celebrate those
Absolutely.
hardworking people. It's amazing, really,
Yep.
what we accomplished, and it's a united front there. It really is.
Absolutely.
And I might add that her assistant really helped her a lot this year, so thank you guys. I checked in just a little, and she got there just in the right time to help her with, I think, 70 rotations, or 70, what they call it, get out in the field where the students get out. So that teacher was there, her assistant was there to help her to manage that. So it was noticed. So anyway, I think it'd be great to notice, and we go around and maybe we look at our middle school situation with the trip to Washington. We look at things like that. That would be those are good things to celebrate. A lot of hard work to put that together.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else? All right, that concludes our meeting for this evening. We do have a meeting on Monday, July 22nd at the Howell High School, which is going to be evaluation training that's offered as a result of the changes in the law for the superintendent evaluation. So I think there are several, probably a sufficient number that would constitute a quorum. So it will be an open meeting. As I understand it, it's going to be a coordinated meeting with representatives of the other school districts within the LESA district whose members are going to take the training at the same time. So it's an effort to try to provide training opportunities for as many board members within the LESA district as possible. So for those of you who will be there, I will be there. I'll see you there. And we are adjourned.